Welcome to WRM, Work Relationships Matter. I'm your host, the Edward Jones, a certified life coach who specializes in work relationships. Now, no matter what type of work you do, work relationships matter. My guests have been successful because they've learned how to develop and maintain positive work relationships. Cecil Canton, founder of Equalitay Solutions, is here today to share his thoughts and experiences that will be beneficial to you. Welcome, Cecil,
Thank you, Ed. It's great to be here.
and great to have you. Now, Cecil, I've been to workshops, and you've probably been to them also, where people have that name tag they put on. They see your name, Cecil Canton. What's the first thing that they ask you?
First thing they ask me is, well, what do you do?
Exactly. And that's the thing here. So what we want to do is look at, before we get into what you do, we want to learn more about who you are. So we do that by starting with how it all began, because sometimes there are people in your life who were role models or things that you saw growing up that influenced you and kind of helped make you the person you were. Maybe it's part of your educational components, whatever it might be. But how did it all begin for you?
Well, that's interesting, Ed, because I had a godmother that was a teacher in the New York City public schools. And during the summers, they had programs. She would take my twin brother and I, and we would go with her every day to programs. And, you know, she was an elementary school teacher. And so we had a chance to look at her and see what she was doing. This is during the summer because she lived in New York and we lived on Long Island. So we would spend time with her. I got into teaching because she was a teacher. And I liked the way that she related to the young people, including my brother and I, as godchildren. And so when I went to college, I had a work study job, and the work study job was at a daycare center. Interesting enough, I had never thought about going to a daycare center, but they put me in this daycare center, and I was with these little kids, and I just loved it. I loved working with these little kids. They kind of made me their playground. So they'd be hanging on me and doing stuff, and I just really thoroughly enjoyed that. When I was changing majors after my community college, I decided I wanted to be in education. So I majored in English and elementary education, and I was an elementary school teacher for a few years. And as we've said earlier, you know, life is serendipitous. I mean, you think you're going to go in one direction and then something else comes up, and that becomes either intriguing or, you know, you need a job, and so you take the job. That's kind of what happened to me. I wound up getting a scholarship to Columbia to do a master's and a doctorate. And when I was working on the doctorate, an opportunity came up in criminal justice, in what was at that time LEA funds. And a colleague of mine, a friend of mine, a guy who I was in classes with, said, "Hey, you know, we've got this money and we're going to do this program in Hempstead, New York, and you know, we want you to be a part of it." So I got involved in it. I never, I wound up going through that and becoming a peace officer. But I never.
Let's break right there, because that's really quite a leap. I never thought about you in daycare or doing those kind of things. I just don't see Cecil there. But I understand how that came about. But I'm looking at now the leap from teaching. I guess it was an elementary education.
Yes.
And then going from there to, I mean, that's a big leap. It's not even across the street; it's down the road from career-wise. So what happened in between there? Because there's a major pivot here.
Well, again, I was in school finishing up my doctorate, and this friend of mine who was also in the same program. We were in an educational leadership program.
Okay.
And he was based in I was living in New York City, and he was based in Long Island. And he was working with this economic opportunity program, the EOC centers, you know, the Centers for Economic Opportunity. And he had written this proposal, and they accepted it, and it was funded. So he was looking around for folks to help him implement it. And he came to me and said, I want to work with you. There were three of us who were working on this particular thing. He liked the fact that I was very, very detail oriented. And so I was able to lay out map that whole thing out with steps, in every possible way, financial, the objectives actually developing the objectives for the training. So it wound up being a program for juveniles, for juveniles. Mm-hmm. And it was called the Youth Justice Program. And we were based out of the Old Westbury College, and part of the SUNY system. And we worked with juvenile delinquents. And because I was seen as somebody very pivotal in that, other opportunities came up. I wound up going back into education with a program that was called una-ble Academy, which was a street academy. They hired me to be the director, which was the principal, which is what I wanted to do. I was the principal of that street academy. From there, I got known by folks in government in Albany, and I was looking to move up there anyway. And then Peter Edelman, who was the director of the youth of the Division for Youth of the state of New York, called me in for an interview, and I was very flattered. By the way, he was the husband of Marion Wright Edelman, who a lot of people know. And so we interviewed, and he offered me a job, and then I wound up in Albany, and working with juvenile delinquents. From there, I wound up working a couple of different jobs. I was a special assistant to the Commissioner for Office of Mental Health at that time. And then I went to, I was recruited to go to the New York State Department of Correctional Services, where I came in as the chief school officer.
Now, let me do one thing. I want to kind of get into the hard part of this. Mm-hmm. You worked with juvenile delinquents, and obviously your background working with children and have a good relationship was great. So in terms of helping to help them and turn them around, how was that experience?
Well, it's interesting because my background, what I was hired to do actually was develop. I was like the grants entrepreneur. They hired me to write grants and seek the money. I was looking for money everywhere I could. So I wound up developing. So I wasn't working directly with them. I was developing programs and identifying sources of funds that could support them and support what the Division for Youth wanted to do with young people. Make a long story short, I wound up being recruited to the New York State Department of Correctional Services as the person who was to come in to change their education program. Obviously, I couldn't do that alone. I had to have help, but I didn't intend to be in that job more than 2 years, maybe 3 years in the max. I wound up doing 14 years in that. But during the time, my position was then changed to or maybe it was added to a peace officer's position. So I had to go through the whole process that every other peace officer has to go through, which is qualifying, going through, learning about the law and so forth and so on. Correctional law is a little different than other law, penal code, that kind of thing. But then I was there when I was recruited by the chair of the Division of Criminal Justice at Sac State. I met him at a conference, and he recruited me to come to California. And that was in 1989. And I came out at the end of 1990, beginning of 1991, and been there ever since until I retired. I'm fully going to retire this year. Mm-hmm. So it's a serendipitous process getting into criminal justice. Now, why am I doing Equalitay? Part of it is because my work with the California Faculty Association, we were really focused on becoming anti-racist and working on changing the system. Well, first changing our union, and then ultimately changing the system in the state of California. And so we developed a number of initiatives that had to do with unconscious bias, cultural taxation, those kinds of things that I wrote about with the union. And as a result of that, when I was going to retire, I talked to my wife And I said, well, you know, I'm thinking about retiring. How did you know when it was time to retire? And she said, you just know.
That's right.
So I knew, but then I said, well, you know, you don't retire from, you retire to.
Mhm.
So what is it that you're going to retire to, Cecil? And I talked with her and she said, well, you know, you love teaching. And I said, yeah, you're right. I said, but what am I going to teach? And I thought, you know, I always loved going to the range when I was a peace officer.
Mhm.
And remember, I hadn't been a peace officer in a long time. So I decided I was going to look into training as a firearms instructor. And so I took my business and I said, well, you know, as we've talked about earlier, I had a few contracts to do unconscious bias with some couple of different police agencies, but you know, there was no fire in that. You know, I didn't have people. You know, there was no fire for that. So I decided, well, you know what, I can train people in terms of you know, firearms. And then COVID hit, and everybody started buying guns. I mean, they must have sold 8 million guns, and must have been 5 million people decided that they needed to have guns. And so I said, well, you know what? What's really important is that they not just have a gun, but they know how to use it properly and safely. So I decided to pivot my Equalitay Solutions business, since I wasn't doing a whole lot of mediation, solving those kinds of problems and unconscious bias. I said, well, you know, and I said in my own head, this was me being funny to me. Well, if I can't help them solve it amicably, maybe I can teach them how to solve it a different way. But no, clearly, I don't want people using firearms to solve a problem. I just want people who have firearms or who are interested in them to know how to use them safely. And so that's what I started pushing my and I got certifications with the NRA and USCCA and California DOJ, which allows me to teach people how to. And I developed relationships with, again, talking about the relationships with what was then the Sacramento Gun Club and a couple of other places where they have ranges, where I can train people and be able to teach them how to safely handle a firearm. Now, right. You're right. It's about relationships, because without relationships, none of what I've done in my life would be possible. Because I used to tell my children at one time it wasn't who you knew. I mean, it was what you knew, and then it was who you knew, and then it became who knows you.
Okay.
Who knows you? You know, so always understand that that's important. That you may get opportunities because somebody's heard about you. That's what happened for me with the Division of Youth and Peter Edelman. He heard about what I was doing on Long Island. I didn't know how he heard about it. I didn't even know that he heard about it. But he called and asked me to interview with him, and so I was blessed that way. But relationships in everything. My relationships in working with the California Faculty Association, and building on those relationships to try to make a change. So it's like organizing by one-on-one. You organize one person at a time. You get them done. You have a view or a vision or a dream. I always tell people it's about a dream. You know, what's your dream? Because you have to have a dream to make a dream come true. And so I just worked on knowing that this organization was very pivotal because it influenced, 29,000 people who are considered faculty for almost 500,000 students. If we could make an impact on that, what could we do if we were able to establish relationships with those faculty, make that union say, we're going to be the tip of the spear to do this work, and we could influence 500,000 students. Now, that's a big job, because I told people when I first started, I said, we're going to change California and the world. We're certainly going to change California.
Now, how did you want to seek to change California when you talked about that, and how has your union work helped to do that?
Okay, so first you have to get people to buy into a more equitable and just relationship. I would tell my colleagues, particularly we both worked in the system. We have a lot of white people who work in the system. I would tell them that when you can take off, you may not want to be, you may not be trying to be, but because we live in such a racist society, it's almost impossible not to be. Everything is stacked for you. Everything is designed to support you and not other folks who have to try to get to be you. So if we can get you to start identifying that, do I really have a right to the privilege that I have? Is that like, is there something intrinsic in me that says you should be superior or you should feel superior to other people?
Now that brings me to the point about your unconscious bias, because I think that a lot of people may not realize or feel that they have advantages. So how do you make them aware of that?
Well, we developed a training. And again, all you can really do is raise people's awareness. People have to change when they want to change. And if they don't want to change, they're not going to. But sometimes people don't realize who they are and how they present themselves to everybody else in the world. And it took me a long time, for instance, to get my colleagues who, all professors and librarians and coaches and counselors. It took me and those who I was working with to be able to even talk about white supremacy in a way that they wouldn't run away. Today we can talk about that, and people can have a conversation about what that means and how it shows up in their life. Okay, because it shows up in all of our lives, whether we like it or not. To be able to get people to acknowledge that and acknowledge their privilege, it was part of what we were trying to do. If I can get you to acknowledge that you have certain kinds of privileges that other people don't, whether it's male privilege over female, or whether it's ableism or over disabled, whatever it is, if we can get you to start realizing that that's a privilege you have, how do you operate on that privilege? How does that manifest itself in your daily life? It's really interesting when people have to think about their interactions with other people and whether those interactions have in fact reinforced their quote superior position, or whether it's tried to make folks feel that they are in an equitable situation.
Now, the world is getting, it seems that things are getting more polarized today. So does that make your work in terms of looking at a level playing field, whatever it might be, does that make that work a little bit more difficult?
We focus so much on the people who are problematic that we forget about all the other people.
Okay.
There are a lot of people out there who don't subscribe to all that, who really want to be equitable, really want to be, they never knew it wasn't equitable because that's just been the way it's been. So when you can get them to see it without them having to feel, I mean, look, I can't make you feel guilty. You feel guilty or not feel guilty. That's up to you. I can merely show you what is and say, this is what is. Now you tell me whether that's just or not. If it's just for you, then you will continue to do it. But if you can see that it's not just, that in fact you are playing into and supporting and condoning a system that is inequitable, that in fact treats certain groups of people inequitably, or in a discriminating way, and you realize that that's wrong, because we are all raised with right and wrong. Some of us adopted it as principles, some of us don't. But we're all raised with some sense of right and some sense of wrong. And if that seems wrong to you, then the question is, what are you going to do about that? So like Kendi talks about anti-racism, and I said, I subscribe to that. Anti-racism isn't, it isn't like a status. It's an action, because you have to be able to interrogate your actions and your way, your place in the world, as far as racism is concerned, and be able to say, I'm doing things that support it, or I'm going to actively do things that try to mitigate it, because now I can see it. A lot of folks don't realize, and in their heads, they said, I'm not racist, I'm not this, I'm not that. But you have to show them where their actions and their place in the world supports that or demonstrates that or exhibits that. So that they can say,
one thing that happens, and this is with the people who were fighting against what they call critical race theory, which is really just basically the full history, but is guilt the objective? That's what the people are fighting against, because they don't want their children to feel guilty.
No.
So what is the objective?
Guilt is not the objective. Okay. What the objective is self-awareness.
Okay.
That's the objective. Can I help you become more aware of how you're placed in the world and in the society? Okay. And can I help you understand that there is nothing innate about you that gives you a privilege? We're all human beings. Now there's some people who don't want to look at that. I mean, they don't want to talk about redlining that got them the house that they got, and other folks couldn't get theirs. They don't want to talk about something like the GI Bill that certainly helped to build the middle class in this country. Okay, but that's not necessarily equally for all groups and all ethnic groups or racial groups. So there's some people who don't want to see the reality. Okay, and I can't make them see it.
Now, a lot of people say that was in the past, so why bring it up now? So how do you respond to that?
I respond to it by saying, there are a lot of things that happened in the past. That doesn't mean that you weren't advantaged by the things that happened. If you tie my legs in a race and we run around and the race is 5 or 6 times around the track, and my legs hobbled and yours is not, then you're going to have an advantage. Okay. So what would happen? And this I think comes down to the real problem. Mm-hmm. What happens if I don't have the advantage? Mm-hmm. If I don't have the advantage, does that mean I lose something? No one wants to lose. Okay. I mean, that's just a fundamental human condition. I don't want to lose what I have. Mm-hmm. And if it looks like I got to lose it in order for you to gain it, that is a zero-sum game, then I don't want to play that. Mm-hmm. What we've got to do is to be able to show people that in relationships, you don't have to lose a thing. Okay? You don't have to lose a thing. Now, if you're hell-bent on, I want to be the boss, I want everything to, I had a conversation with a South African one time. I was in South Africa. And he was complaining about the fact, this is during the time when apartheid was falling. Mm-hmm. And he was complaining about the fact that he didn't have any advantages anymore. Mm. And he was going to leave South Africa and move to Canada. I was trying to be a good ambassador. So I didn't want to say, so what I told him was, I think if you move to Canada, you're going to find it might be a little different for you. You may be moving from one place, but not seeing any real difference when you get there. Mm-hmm. So it's not about guilt. It's about awareness. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's about awareness and a sense of, okay, can we build something? That's what we were doing with the California Faculty Association, to be able to convince people that we build something together. We don't tear down something, we build something. Okay. I can't go back into the past and change a thing, mm-hmm. but I can make you aware of how that past may have advantaged some groups over others, and how if we work together, we build together. The California Faculty Association is becoming a stronger organization because it's been much more inclusive. Mm-hmm.
You get to talk from everybody. Now, you've done so many things, and I know that you had ups and downs and things like that. What's the toughest situation that you faced, and how did you handle it?
I have to say it's very personal. It wasn't even. I mean, we all have tough situations, and we could probably point to several that become the beginning of an epic in our life. Mm-hmm. Right. I'll say the hardest situation for me was when I was trying to finish my dissertation at Columbia, and my mother died.
Oh man!
And my mother died, and I just lost all sense of, it just wasn't important to me anymore. She gave me the values that I had. I survived in my life because she was willing to make the sacrifices for my brothers and I to do so. And so that was, and she was like my best friend. Mm-hmm. She was just that kind of a person, very, very smart person, grew up in the Depression, wanted to go to college, but for Black girls, that wasn't happening. For most of them, they weren't going to get a chance to do that. Even though her teachers told my grandmother, she's smart enough to go to college. But my grandmother said, "Who's going to pay for college? I've got 8 children. She's my oldest daughter. How's she going to go to college?" And my mother always wanted to go to college, and I was trying to get her to go to college because I thought what she had and the things she learned. She was an avid reader. She could have a conversation with anybody. And I always tell people, I said, my mother was the kind of person. Her communication skills were so enhanced and so acute that she could tell a man to go to hell and have him happy to be going. Okay. Okay. But so when she was taken from my life, and they say to be absent in body is to be present with the Lord, and she had cancer, and I'm grateful that she didn't have to suffer. She suffered a long time, but she didn't have to continue to suffer. Right. That was a blow to me. I mean, I couldn't even think about, and I was in this program. Everybody thought I was going to be one of the first people to graduate, to finish the dissertation and graduate. Mm-hmm. That just threw me off. But I had some friends who came and years later and said, "Look, we want to help you get through this," and they did. It's a head thing, as you probably know. It's mm-hmm. all that is about what your head is like. So I was able to finish the doctorate and get the doctorate. I wish my mother could have been there, but that was the hardest thing for me. That when I look back in my life, that was the hardest thing for me to get past that. I was also a musician. I was playing in a band in New York City. Okay. I gave up I trying to get myself motivated. I said, I'm not going to play till I finish this dissertation. Mm-hmm. Well, that was like several years, 5 years before I finished the dissertation. So my chops went out the window, and I kind of, didn't get back into my music, which is another hard thing for me because I love music.
Right now, because I just can imagine that you're into something that's so intense, like the doctorate program, and also, I guess, the fulfilling thing of the music. So going through that, because I just think about other people who are listening will possibly go through something like this, and that just seems daunting. So basically, when you think about, if you were to tell people, now that you're never over it, but now that it's been some time since then, what advice would you give them when you're thinking, I'm head steam going something like this, then bam, life hits you? How do you deal with that?
Life hits you every time, but you know what? Right. But you know what? I'm reminded by my wife. She tells mm-hmm. me, Cecil, almost every day, find the joy. Mm-hmm. Find the joy. There's joy out there. Right. And in every situation that comes, it's mm-hmm. It's like, when you get that bill that comes in, it's unexpected, and you go, doggone it, I can't, why is this happening to me, Right. And then you realize, you say, what, but I may be in a position to be able to do that. So there's a blessing right there. Mm-hmm. I remember the blessings, focus on the blessings. If you want to focus on all the hard things that go on, that's just life. Mm-hmm. You get through life by moving forward and focusing on the positive things that happened to you mm-hmm. and that have sustained you and brought you the way you are. Right. Because nobody's perfect, and our lives aren't perfect. Right. I wish I could say my life is perfect, Ed. I got no issues. What I have adopted is a principle. Right. And that principle is I'm going to try to live my life without regret. Right. That's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to live my life without regret. And I'm going to hurry slowly mm-hmm. now that I'm not rushing. I'm just going to take my time, because if that elevator left, it's going to come back down. If that train left the station, there's going to be another train. Right. And if people realize that, then it's not like, wow, I lost this. No, it's mm-hmm. just, I'm waiting for it. Right. So in that situation, you just kind of have to slow down, catch your breath. Don't give up. Continue to work, although it might be slower. It might be slower, but that's all right. But we live life going forward, not going backward. Mm-hmm. Okay? Right. Absolutely. So, No. What do you find in your work or whatever that's been most rewarding for you? Oh, when somebody says thank you for mm-hmm. showing me how to do this. I mean, or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. I learned when I was a kid that I wanted to be a teacher. Mm-hmm. And so in every job I've ever had, I've been a teacher. whether the
Okay.
job called for that or not. And so you find that which fulfills you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? People have the ability, though they don't think about it, of recreating the work that they do, recreating the job. So add something else to the job description that you want to do, that you like doing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's all possible if you can be positive and find the joy. Now, if joy is, there's joy somewhere out there, and there's joy that's out there for you. You have to really work to see it. But a lot of times it's just right there in front of you.
Right.
All you have to do is acknowledge it. And I will say this, talking about relationships, people would rather be around people who are joyful than not.
Right.
Okay. They'd rather be around people who are positive than not. I've been very fortunate. I've been very fortunate. I've been a positive person. So, I've had great relationships with people. And the other part of that is if somebody's not positive and you can't help them, you need to get them out of your life, because all they want to do is bring you to where they are. And that's not happy. That's not
Absolutely.
joy. That's not joy.
No, it's not. And Cecil, half hour has gone by so quickly.
Oh, has it? I didn't realize
it has. We're already there. And it's like, you've dropped some great nuggets here today, nuggets of knowledge. So if people want to learn more about you or more about Equalitay Solutions, where would they go to get that information?
They could go to my website, which I don't know if you're going to put it up there. I can't say it offhand, but Equalitay Solutions is go to www.equalitaysolutions.com, and that's my website. And it has a phone number, or you can call me and talk to me. I prefer, I know the millennials and folks, they like to text. I'm old school. I like to talk on the phone.
Do you have that number you want to share with them?
Sure, 916-801-2918. That's my number. So call me.
Right.
But let me just say this. I don't recognize the number. I don't answer it. So you'll have to leave a message.
And you'll get back to them.
I'll get back to them. I promise I'll get back to them, because I love doing what I'm doing. And I love making an impact in people's lives and having them make an impact in mine.
Well, Cecil, thank you so much for being a part of our show today.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Ed. I really do appreciate this. This is a lot of fun. I wasn't sure what was going to happen, but it's been a lot of fun.
and it is, and you're very positive, and it definitely shows. So, folks, this is Work Relationships Matter. I'm your host, The Edward Jones. Thank you for listening to this episode. And remember, if you want to learn more about my coaching business, it's prodestinycoaching.com. That's prodestinycoaching.com. There's a work relationships quiz you can take. And if you do that and get back to me, you'll get a complimentary coaching session. So most of all, though, remember that work relationships work for those who work on them. Have a great day. Welcome to Work Relationships Matter. I'm your host, The Edward Jones, a certified life coach. Now, normally we talk about work relationships, but this is going to be a special episode this week. We're going to talk with Dr. Luana Parker about an upcoming virtual summit that she's going to have. It's going to be very, very exciting. You can see the picture behind you. You can see the speakers. You can see all the things that are going to be happening. I'm so excited to share this opportunity with you. So without further ado, I just want to welcome you, Luana, for another time on my show. I'm just so glad to have you and so happy to talk about the summit.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Edward. It's always a pleasure to come on your show. I really enjoy being a part of it. And I especially am enjoying the fact that you are going to be one of the speakers for this upcoming summit.
Oh, yes, that's exciting. But let's talk about how it all began. How did this whole thing come about? The idea, the process, all of those things that helped make this thing come to fruition.
Well, actually, I got a new coach.
Okay.
And I've been working with her for a while, along with some other women. And she informed us that she wanted each one of us to set up something. Enough with the talk. Now it's time to take action. And I kind of like that. So we each set up a summit, mine being the first to come on board. But I'm enjoying the process. It's kind of like a little journey of learning how to approach people and get them to be a part of your event. and then all the promotion that goes into it. Fortunately, I'm lucky that she has a team that we get to work with, not for free,
Hmm.
but we do get to work with this team. And all you have to do is tell them what it is that you want done, how you would like it to look, and they just take it and run. They're very good group of people, and I want to give kudos to Doss, who is the um, head person of this group, and they just do a phenomenal job. I've seen several of vermin. I'm saying vermins getting tongue tied here. There are
Okay.
very number of summits that they have actually helped with, and you can almost recognize their work. They're good at what they do.
Okay. Now, now, how long have you been coaching?
I think I prefer to say I'm more a mentor than a
Okay.
coach.
All right.
Um, you know, coaching is helping people to do things and making suggestions and guide them. I do that, but I'm more the person that people talk to. I listen and then I encourage them on doing whatever it is that they're doing, and I uplift them and I'm right there for them. Uh, kind of like the lady who I had I have now as my coach. She's there. You call her, you know she's going to respond. And the one thing that I'm learning to do that she does, she will spank you on your behind when you start acting crazy.
What does that mean? What does
What it
acting crazy
means is
mean?
don't talk about, oh, I can't do, or oh, I'm having a hard time. I don't think I was meant to. She doesn't want to hear that kind of stuff because, as she puts it, we can all do whatever it is that we want to do. We just have to make up our mind to do it and then
Hmm.
take action. So
Right.
when you start putting yourself down, she's gonna she'll bring you out of it. You won't like what you hear her saying.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, good. Well, the thing I realized, I know that we met when you were doing the speech coaching, so that was
Mm-hmm.
probably a couple of years ago. So in terms of your mentoring, now we're going to go back to what she's done for you,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to just basically talk a little bit about you on this point, about you doing the mentoring and things like that. So how long have you been doing the mentoring, and what got you into doing the mentoring in the first place?
Actually, it was the journaling. I started. I've told this story several times. I got sick. It's the first time I ever been that sick. And I don't know if it was COVID because I didn't go to the doctor. I
Mm-hmm.
figure I'm here. No, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to infect anybody if I do have it. But I
Right.
was sick for about a month. And what
Okay.
happened was journaling came into my head. So
Mm-hmm.
I started learning and talking about journaling. The
Mm-hmm.
journaling caused have people ask me about writing.
Okay.
Another thing that I really enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm.
So now I have this group of ladies, some who journal, some who
Mm-hmm.
write, some who
Right.
does poetry, some
Mm-hmm.
who are doing self-help books. But it's this group, and that's what got me into mentoring. I encourage them. Some of them know how to write a little,
Mm-hmm.
but they're afraid to step out there. And my job is to help them to put their feelings out there because, as I tell everyone, there's someone specifically that needs to hear your message.
Right.
Whether it's writing a love story or a self help book or portrait, whatever it is, they need to hear it from you. And so
Okay.
you need to get your voice out there. And we all have a message to share. I love yours because you do work relationships. That's awesome. I could have used more of that where I worked at before.
Right. Well, the thing, but I think that's great that that's how it all began there now. But you were doing a lot of different things before you met your current coach. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I know you went to a lot of seminars and things like that and probably picked up some things. But at those seminars, you weren't, maybe, I don't know, I guess the word would be forced to do something like this.
No, I wasn't. And also, I didn't know what I wanted to do,
Okay.
to be perfectly truthful. That was part of the reason why I went to these uh, different conferences and seminars, workshops, looking for that one thing that was for me.
Got it.
And getting sick, journaling coming out of my head, I still tell people that was God's doing. He got tired
Mhm.
of me whining about what I wanted to do. And
Mhm.
he sent a message. I listened, and that message had led me to doing things that I really do like doing. I like, I love writing.
Mhm.
I love giving speeches and talking about writing and other things that I have knowledge on. I
Mhm.
love doing the podcast. It's just led me into all these things that I enjoy doing. You asked me earlier about being so busy, and I was teasing you about cutting down on some things. I don't know
Mhm.
what to cut down on because these are things that I truly enjoy doing.
Mhm.
And helping people, oh, that's a big deal for me. And I don't know where that came from. It just has been part of my life as far back as I can remember. So, yeah.
Right. And so that's probably your number one thing. So, in terms of helping people, what gives you so much joy in doing that?
Seeing their faces when they accomplish something that they set out to do,
Mhm.
or when something hits them and it makes sense and they know what it is, and the joy that comes over them to see them accomplish something that they wanted to accomplish but thought they had no chance of doing it.
Mhm.
Who I never would have believed that I would ever have an opportunity to do well, just what we're doing now,
Mhm.
talking on podcasts and having it broadcast to millions of people out there.
Mhm.
Um, but somewhere along the line, I met a woman who said, "You can do this," and wouldn't take no from me.
So it's almost, I get the impression that you're lifting as you climb, and it's, but by me saying that is that you want to help people do things that they didn't think was possible, and you have a person who's helping you do things that you didn't think were possible.
Exactly. Things, and isn't it funny how things go in a circle like that?
Mm-hmm.
Um, by I've had some good people in my life, okay? Some
Mm-hmm.
really good people who along the way have helped me in different things in my life, who may or may not have realized that they made a difference. Some of them are gone now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but along the way, they played a part in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to do the same for someone else. Right now, I've got a couple of people who, whether they realize it or not, they play a big part in my life
Mm-hmm.
because they have pushed me out there beyond where I thought I was capable of going. And I just want to do the same for somebody else. Help
Mm-hmm.
them recognize their talents, the gifts that were given to them by God. When we don't use what's given to us, we lose it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to see that happen to anyone.
Absolutely. And I thought about something you said. You said that, you wanted to help, but you didn't know what to do. And I think, to me, let me ask this question. Is it a matter of, because it seems like you know what to do, it's just that maybe you weren't clear on how to do it.
That's a good statement, and it's probably quite true. I didn't have training on a lot of the things that I do. When I say training, I didn't go to college to learn how to do a number of things that
Mm-hmm.
I would have
Right,
liked to have done.
right.
I personally did not feel college was for me, and I don't believe college is for everybody.
I agree.
What society does is try to make you feel like if you didn't go to college, you're somehow lacking.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself falling into that trap of thinking
Okay.
I was lacking because I hadn't gone to college. And
Mm-hmm.
therefore, what gave me the right to try to do anything, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but as I say, I have met some people along the way who have uh, reminded me of individuals like, uh, what's his name? The one that with the cookies, famous Amos, something like
Oh,
that.
yes, yes, right.
He didn't go to college, and there's a whole plethora of people who
Mm-hmm.
didn't go to college, and look where they are today.
Right.
All because they made a decision of what they wanted, and they didn't let anybody detract them. And
Mm-hmm.
my grandfather is a great example of that. Man who had nothing,
Mm-hmm.
born on the wrong side of the blanket, as they used to say.
Right.
had
Okay.
had siblings who knew about him and teased him that he would get nothing that their father left when he passed away.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't let that get him down. When he left Texas and came to Louisiana, and he had a dream of owning his own farm. When my grandfather passed away, he left behind 320 acres of land for his children, completely paid for, and those siblings who teased him had to come to him from time to time to get help.
Yes.
So,
Right. So it's
you
not what you
know,
know, it's what you do with what you know.
hmm
Absolutely. So now that we got just did a little bit of the backstory with you, let's talk more about specifically about the summit. And you said that your coach said you have got to do something. And you said, I'm feeling summit in my mind. And then you had to come up with a theme and everything like that. So what was that process like, in terms of, tell us a little bit about that person and then how this whole thing kind of went, kind of walk us through it.
well, I kind of brainstormed the name of the summit,
Mhm.
talked with some people about what did they think about doing a summit in May and what did it bring to mind. And one of the people said, how about spring into action? And I thought that was very appropriate because that's exactly what I was doing. I was springing into action. I was taking a step forward to do something I have not done virtually, which was to hold a summit. So that's how the title came about. And of course, knowing you, I wanted you to be one of the speakers.
Well,
And I
thank
had
you.
I had met this young lady from the Philippines and I wanted her to be a speaker. But when I was at the Women Prosperity Network, I mentioned it and put the information in the chat box. And before that meeting was over, I had my speakers.
Wow, they just like took it up like a sponge.
People are looking for speaking opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And I provided one and they gravitated to it. In fact, I already have 5 speakers for the next summit and I haven't even set the date for that one yet.
Oh my goodness.
So, it's kind of awesome.
Yes, it is.
Mhm.
It is. Now, I think about, because you were saying before that she had to kind of nudge you from time to time. So it's that idea she got you out of your comfort zone.
Yes, she did, in a sense.
Right.
Yeah, because it was something I secretly wanted to do. I've been to other people. In fact, 2020, I spent my time going to a number of summits and observing what they were doing, but I didn't step out to do one myself because I didn't know what I wanted it to be about. And I thought, well, I'll just keep learning what other people are doing. Then last year, of course, when I started the journaling, um, I wanted to learn more and more about journaling and talking about that. I even This is the crazy thing. I have a blog,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a couple of people who asked me to speak about blogging. Well, doing that, I've also gotten people who asked me about how to go about starting a blog and knowing what to put on it. So all of these things have tied in together
Mm-hmm.
to make it's like this big wheel and these little spokes in there. Each one is something that I really enjoy doing, and it's
Mm-hmm.
been phenomenal the things that have taken place.
Right. So how did it feel to step outside your comfort zone? I mean, you could say, I know how to do this, and I'm comfortable in the audience.
Mhm.
I'm comfortable listening. I'm comfortable journeying. I'm comfortable speaking, but not so comfortable coordinating a summit. So what were the emotions like as you were going through that?
Mm, scary. I'm not gonna tell anybody it wasn't scary. Mistakes that I could make, and these are things I talk to other people about all the time. It's okay to make a mistake. You learn from the mistakes. And I have to keep telling myself the same thing. If you fall flat on your face, that's okay. Get yourself up, dust yourself off, and start all over again.
Right. And sometimes it's easier to say than to do.
Exactly. I found that out. I found that out, but I'm still pushing along. I know this is going to be a success. I've sold tickets already. We've
Mm-hmm.
got, I believe, 26, 28 people who are going to be there. So,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I'm excited about that. And as I said, I've already got 5 people who have asked about speaking at my next event. So I
Okay.
have to get busy scheduling a date so I can make sure I have an announcement to make at this event.
Mm-hmm. Right. No, that sounds good. So as you're going through this, so what are your conversations with your coach like now?
Uh, Fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fun. It's nice when we meet to say, okay, I've done this week, and this is taking place this week, and uh, you feel good about yourself. Anytime you do something that you had a little bit of fear about,
Mm-hmm.
and you make those steps, even if you make a mistake, you still feel good because you know you stepped out
Yes.
and you made the effort. So if you make a mistake, it doesn't bother you the way it would have had you not. You know, when you sit back and you think about, oh, I like to do, but this might happen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I could try this. Oh, no, this might happen. So, no, maybe I just won't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Worst feeling in the world is not to do what you've thought about doing or dreamed about doing or have always had a desire to do. If you don't do anything, that's the worst feeling in the world. I may make 100 million mistakes, but I'll always feel good knowing that I stepped out and I did something.
Mm-hmm.
I'll learn from those mistakes, and the next time I'll improve. And each time I will get a little better. I'll never be perfect, but I'll be striving for it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that's good. Now, when I think about the summit, a lot of people obviously want to speak. So when you think about your thing is helping people.
Mhm.
Now, we talked about before was focusing on the how. So as you go through this summit and knowing what your purpose in life is helping, and the how does this summit help you hone that how? Will you be like a person who deals with speakers now? Is that'll be your focus? Will you stay with journaling? Or when you
No,
think
I'm
about,
pretty sure I'm going to stay with the journaling and the writing part of it.
okay,
Um, the what I have discovered in putting this on is that there are a lot of people who want to speak, and
okay,
I don't mind doing a summit, but
mhm,
it's not going to be my main focus.
okay,
My thing is writing. That's
mhm,
number one. But also, I have since learned how to show people how to protect themselves, both legally and through identity theft, which
mhm,
is
okay,
was something else that I had started offering, and that's great. That's been phenomenal as well. Wasn't expecting that, but
mhm,
because it started out with me wanting to help my son, and
mhm,
then
okay,
recognizing there are other people who could use this,
mhm,
and so it's been a major coup for me, and I'm excited about that as well. But writing and journaling, they're still my primary focus, and I love talking about them.
right. Because one thing that just came, well, actually, two things came to mind that may be congruent with the summit idea,
Mhm.
and that because there are people who like to speak, but there are also people who like to write. And if you had a summit with writers, or maybe
And
one with dealing with identity theft, these are two very very popular things, and that may have those words coming together rather than one or the other. What do you think about that?
I think it's a great idea. As a matter of fact, this weekend I'm going to be on the panel at a writing summit that
Mm-hmm.
I'm super excited about. I'll be speaking on legacies. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's going to be That's a new one for me to actually be on the writing panel.
Mm.
And believe it or not, I have talked to someone about doing some workshops on identity theft. So
Hmm.
that's quite possible that I may be doing one of those soon.
Right, and those could be future summits. So therefore,
Hmm.
you've got having everything coming together. You're helping people write, and you're helping protecting people from identity theft through summits where you can reach more people. Actually.
Yep, absolutely. So, I may have done, I may have grumbled and complained and whined and whatnot to God because I couldn't figure out where I was supposed to go.
Hmm.
And He slapped me down and put me to bed and said, "Now I want you to listen to what I have to say. I want you to
Right.
start with journaling.
Hmm.
Do that, and
Right.
everything else will fall in place." And that
Right.
seems to be how it has worked out.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. Now, so in this way, you do a lot of different things. So would you want to be kind of a jack of all trades, or would you want to say have a couple of specialty areas?
I am a jack of all trades, to be perfectly truthful, and I say that in all modesty. I'm not bragging,
Okay.
but the thing that I focus on is the writing.
Okay.
That's my thing. I really do that. And actually speaking is something
Hmm.
else that I enjoy doing. So
Okay.
whether it's speaking at an event or on a podcast or internet TV show, I enjoy speaking. I love sharing knowledge, and boy, believe me, at my age, I've accumulated quite a bit. And for those of you who don't know, I just recently celebrated my Diamond Jubilee year. Look
Okay.
it up.
All right. Okay.
That'll tell you how old I am.
All right.
So I got
Diamond
a lot
Jubilee.
to share.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, in the last few minutes we have, because these things do go by fast, why should someone attend the summit?
Oh, there's so much to learn. Well, for example, you'll be speaking on work relations in the workplace.
Well, actually,
I-
I'll be speaking on something called Everybody's Got Something.
oh,
And that's my signature talk. And that just talks about whatever obstacles people face, everybody's got something to face, but there are ways to overcome them and a way to survive and to thrive. So don't let whatever happens to you get you down. It's not what happens, it's how you handle it. And that's basically the take home message.
thank you. And that is a message that needs to be heard. Thank
Yes.
you. For
Mm-hmm.
some reason, I was thinking you were going to be speaking on work relationship, but this is even better.
Right, yeah,
Uh,
but everybody's got something. So, and it came back when Robin Roberts had cancer. And she
mm,
was talking about it, and everybody's saying, "Oh, Robin, this is awful. You got it. You're losing your hair. You got all this, or whatever this might be." She said, "Well, yes, I am." She said, "But I'm doing it." But she says, "Everybody's got something, and
mm,
so this is my thing, and I'm going to work through it." And she did. And I'm thinking that is
good.
amazing. But I got it from Robin Roberts.
That's good. Well, we
Mm-hmm.
have one woman who's going to speak about the things that you need to start doing to prepare yourself for when you're no longer here.
Okay.
And her story is similar to mine. She
Mm-hmm.
didn't check with her husband to find out, what he had in place. I was the same way. Didn't check with my husband to find out what he had in place.
Mm-hmm.
And in both our cases, our husband left this world and didn't prepare anything for us.
Oh, wow.
So she struggled to bring herself to where she is today, and that's
Mm-hmm.
my story as well.
Okay.
I had a good husband, over 50 years of marriage, but that was the one thing because it was like a taboo to talk about
Mm-hmm.
after you're gone. You
Right.
sound like you're trying to hurry them up.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
I didn't talk about that kind of stuff. And
Right.
to my regret, there were a lot of things missing because I didn't. So she'll be sharing the message on that. We have one who's going to talk about health and wellness, how to take care of ourselves, and
Mm-hmm.
another lady who's going to talk about the types of food we should be eating to take care of our bodies.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we have some of everything. We have one woman who will be speaking about Legal Shield,
Mm-hmm.
how you can protect your family through that. Um, and then the Doss, who is the team leader for the marketing and promotion, will be speaking about services that he offers. So anyone who wants someone who can help them get their work out there and look the best at a good price, you want to hear his message.
Okay.
Mhm.
And Vivian with the international message, what will she be talking about?
And you know Vivian will change up on you, but pretty much I believe it's going to be regarding how to look your best on Zoom.
Okay, got it. Got it.
Hmm.
Yes. Okay. And since we're all on Zoom, that's always a good message.
It's a great message. Uh,
Right.
I sometimes see people who don't prepare, and if
Mhm.
you're in a professional business, you want people to look to see you at your best.
Right.
And sometimes we forget what's
Mhm.
going on behind us.
Right.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And uh, how you helped me, you don't may not realize it, but how you helped me with my Zoom because I had the wrong connection or whatever, and now I've got my background without a green screen, so it be able to work that out. So that type of information is definitely needed. Now, Lawana, we're out of time again. That half hour goes by so fast. So I want to thank you for taking the time out to talk about the summit. I look forward to being there to hear other people, but look forward to speaking. And I want to do my best for you and share information with the audience.
Oh,
That's what I'm
I
looking
know
for.
you will, and I thank you for inviting me to be part of your show. I always enjoy when I talk with you. So we're going to do this. We're going to shine, and people will be knocking on the door. And I
Yeah,
know they want to hear what you have to say and want to know how they can work with you.
for sure. Well, thank you so much, folks. Again, this is a special episode of Work Relationships Matter. The summit that's coming up, this is going to be news that you can use no matter what business, entrepreneurship, whatever you're doing, you're going to gain a lot from this summit. So
Mhm.
please come to it. It's May 26th. And what's the time on that again, Luana?
It's 10 a.m. Pacific Standard West Coast time to 1 o'clock. So it's a 3 hour event, and these speakers are jam packed with information that you want to hear.
And how do people get on?
You can go to Eventbrite and look for. I just got tongue tied here. Uh, I'm sorry, my mind is gone blank. It's on Eventbrite, and it's the spring into action. Look for that. Price of the tickets are $10. We're giving you $90 off if you go there today.
Absolutely. So there you go. So you got to go to Eventbrite, and we'll go to the Spring Into Action Virtual Summit. $10. You can't beat the price for what you're going to get. Thank you so much. And again, have a great day. This is Edward Jones, certified life coach. Work relationships matter, but bringing this special edition to you so you can learn and be a part of that summit on May 26th, 10 o'clock. Have a great
Thank,
day.